Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. I'm always trying to think especially if I get to talk with college coaches or someone like yourself that's been at every level. And what's your advice if you're having a young person that's very resistant to the culture, to the change, besides just cut him, let him go? Besides that, what's some advice to bringing him on board?
Yeah, a lot of times what I like to do is send messages to them through other people. And in particular, maybe to some well-known celebrity type people. So I often ask the question, hey, who do you respect other than people in your family? Who do you respect? Who do you look up to? Who do you follow in sports? Because if they're probably trying out for your team, they probably like basketball. Most of your players probably like basketball. So they might have a favorite player, that sort of thing. Once I find that out, then especially if it's a potential problem or challenge player, because you won't have 15 of them.
Right.
You might have one or two. So this is an easy exercise to do. And then I would read everything I could on that player that they looked up to, because inevitably there are going to be things they said or their team did, right, that exemplified exactly what you want your team to say and do. And then what I used to do, even with the pro players, like we had one player who wanted to really be a leader of the team, and he just wasn't doing leadership things. And this was in Boston. One of the players he looked up to in sports was Tom Brady. So I read every article in the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald and anything I could find on Tom. And anything that he said relative to leadership, I highlighted it, I made a copy of it, folded it up, put it in an envelope, and then put it in his locker, right? And eventually what always happens is this. At some point, because at the bottom of it, I might write a quick note. Hey, I saw this on something that Tom Brady said that deals with leadership that I thought you'd like. Kevin, right? So he knew it was me at some point every single time. It might not be week 1, it might be week 4. They would come to me and say, why did you leave that one? Boom, there it is. He just opened his front door and said, come on in, help me. And that's what you're trying to do with these players, get them to open their front door, to let you in their house, right? So, but because I went through a person that they really respected, see, Tom Brady was sending our messages to him.
Yeah.
Doc didn't have to. So what I'm getting at is that may work for someone on the call that's listening, but what I'm trying to get them to do is think deeper as to how you can reach someone. It could be developing a relationship first before you try and go in and change who they are. It may be finding out their dreams and goals.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are certain things they probably are doing that are helping them get there, but there are other things that they're doing that are keeping them from getting there. So those are just a few of the things, but ultimately it comes down to you got to get eye to eye, face to face, not screen to screen. Mm-hmm. Right? Because now it looks like we're able to do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And sit down and have a conversation, and also knowing as the leader, you can't change everybody. Someone who's unwilling to change probably is going to be difficult to change. But if you can somehow try as many things as possible, you might hit the button that kind of shines a light in his head.
And even with those players that it does seem like they may not get on board or understand the lessons that we're teaching right now. We're still, especially for the younger people that we get to deal with, we're planting those seeds so that you might not see reap the benefits of that now, but maybe when they're 25 or when they're 30, you get that text, that email back that says, you know what? I appreciate what you said back then. So sometimes it's a little delayed gratification on our end as coaches. We want to, hey, here's a great nugget for you. Your favorite player said this. go change. But it just, nothing works like that. Never, change never happens like
No,
that.
I mean, it doesn't for us
Yeah.
who supposedly have all of our stuff together, right? Change is hard. So, but as a coach or a leader, it's our job to continue to try, right? Because, like Frank Martin said, there's the kid who comes into your building and there's the kid who leaves, right? Is that person better for having come into your team or come into your building? And that should be something very, very important to anyone who's a coach or a leader, because think of all the Hall of Fame talks. Think about them. Anyone who gets into the Hall of Fame, I guarantee you one person that'll be in every single speech, because I listened to them all. I listened to them for years. Football, baseball, right? A coach is always mentioned.
Yeah.
It's usually one of three things: a coach, a parent or parent figure, and possibly a priest, a minister, or someone else that has really had an impact on their lives. Well, we're one of the three. Like Zig Ziglar, one of the old time motivational speakers, he used to say, a coach will have more impact in 1 year than I will have in all of the talks I give all over the world, because the player wants to be on the team and you're the coach of the team, right? And that's what he was saying. They may not want to hear, but I do believe kids listen, because they have to listen even to get to the point of disagreeing with you, right? Because they got to hear what you say first, then they're going to disagree. Well, that's step one, right? And then it's up to us to try and figure a way to get them to open their front door.
Man, such great reminders, Coach. And what I really appreciate what you said about the messages that we can send through other people. Everything that you're saying, unfortunately, my brain immediately goes to the times where I fell short or failed in excellence, or living out the culture that we've been that we've set up. But I've had players come in and, let's just take leadership. I think they have aspirations to be a great leader, but they're not bringing it in the way that they can. I've used other people's words, but I don't know if I've ever gone to the level of, I know that they like this person. So like, let's Wojo. Steve Wojciechowski was one of my favorite college players. And I just remember him diving, horizontally, poking that ball to his teammate, slapping the floor. And so, or if I'm talking to a player about effort, I may bring up a story about Wojo. And I'm here thinking, this is the best thing that this kid can hear. Well, he's sitting as a 16-year-old going, who in the world is Wojo? And why do I care about that? So thank you so much for that nugget, because I think that's going to help a ton.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know what's in someone's head until we try and figure out a way to ask and get that information from them. And, many times I'll bring my story into it. When I was a kid, I didn't have all these YouTubes. This is me talking to a player. I didn't have all the YouTubes. We didn't have the internet when I was, say, younger. So I had to do it through magazines. I would use my allowance money to buy, the college basketball and pro basketball preseason magazines, because they always had stories. And in that, I was able to see, how hard did Jerry West work? What did Oscar Robertson do to become the player he became? And not that I ever thought I could be those two, but if they did that to become their best, logic stated to me, I should try and do those things to become at least my best, right? So if someone was handing me stuff on Oscar Robertson, Pete Maravich, Jerry West, I would have read it for sure, because I looked up to those people, right? So I don't know, just something for your listeners to think about, because when you're on these things or you're on stage talking, you can provide new information to people, right? You can provide confirmation for people, Oh
Yeah.
gosh, the Celtics did it that way. The Clippers did it that way. And we're doing it that way. We must be doing it okay.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you can provide stimulation.
Yeah.
And in this case, what we're doing right now is just trying to get the listeners to, trying to stimulate their thinking to see, okay, I see what Kevin's doing, but I can actually take it here.
Yeah.
Because by taking it here, that'll be more genuine to me.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.